A billionaire's assistant walked into a hospital room, then took out an exquisitely crafted box and pulled out a top-of-the-line coffee machine, preparing everything for the wealthy man who would soon be checking in. But when he pulled back the curtain between the beds, there was a black man lying in the next bed. Just as the assistant was about to say, the billionaire was wheeled in, making a loud fuss. He was complaining about an important meeting next month. He couldn't stand wasting his time in a hospital bed, and even less could he tolerate sharing a room with a total stranger.
Who the hell is that?
Who the hell are you?
He said, oh God.
He immediately ordered his assistant to get him a private room, but the assistant refused. Ironically, the rule was one the billionaire had set himself. To maximize profits, every room in the hospital was a double room, with no exceptions. And so, the white billionaire and the black mechanic who had spent his whole life fixing cars were bound together by fate in the same hospital room. And the enemy they shared was cancer. Cole's condition was far more dire. To undergo brain surgery, he had to shave off the hair that had been meticulously cared for by his personal stylist. Even though he had wealth beyond measure and could mobilize the world's best medical resources, the surgery still had less than a 5% chance of success. Cole's bedside was crowded with medical professionals and obedient assistants, but not a single family member or friend who truly worried about him. Carter's life, however, was the complete opposite. He didn't have a fortune, but he possessed an incredibly rich inner world. He was well-read, and his dream in his youth had been to become a history professor. But fate took a turn the year he got into college. His girlfriend became pregnant unexpectedly. For the sake of his family, he put his dream on hold without a second thought, and worked in an auto repair shop for 45 years, supporting his family with his two hands. During his hospital stay, his wife came to care for him every day, and his sons often visited. The warmth of family always lingered around his narrow hospital bed. At first, the two men from entirely different worlds seemed to clash in every way.
What is that contraption you got over there?
It's a siphon. Makes coffee. It's called Kopi Luwak.
I know what it's called.
You do?
Never catch me drinking that shit.
Cole maintained his lavish lifestyle, eating only the finest foods, and holding on to an almost stubborn optimism about his illness. He even generously invited Carter to join him for dinner, but Carter declined. It would be pointless even if he ate it. But pain is the one great equalizer. When the bone-deep agony struck in the dead of night, when the vomiting from chemotherapy drained every ounce of strength, neither vast wealth nor deep knowledge could shield them from suffering. In the face of shared hardship, they ceased to be a rich man and a mechanic. They were just two elderly men being slowly cornered by death. As days passed, they slowly let down their guard and opened up to each other. They played cards together as the sun set and talked about their lives in the quiet of the night. Cole spoke of his 4 failed marriages, his tone full of a businessman's shrewdness and pride, but he never mentioned his children. Carter talked about his 45 years of working for his family, though he regretted missing his chance to be a history professor. Whenever he spoke of his family, his eyes were filled with tenderness and pride. Waiting for the final diagnosis felt like awaiting a final judgment. Carter silently pulled out a piece of paper and wrote a few lines.
Scribbling? What?
Nothing, just scribbling.
Not long after, the hospital's lead doctor delivered the cold verdict. The cancer had spread extensively. He had 1 year left at most. Cole remained remarkably composed, even asking Carter about his results first. When they learned they were in the same boat, the room fell into a long silence. In the end, Carter crumpled the paper into a ball and threw it in the trash. They had both gone through the 5 stages of a cancer patient: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. The next day, Cole found the crumpled paper in the corner of the room. On the wrinkled sheet were a few wishes: help a stranger laugh until they cry, witness a magnificent sight with his own eyes, and drive a Mustang. These were all dreams Carter had buried deep in his heart when he was young, but he had never gotten around to them in most of his life. Now, with only a year left, they seemed even more unattainable. But the list ignited Cole's interest. His life was ending, and all he had left was money, and money could solve most of the obstacles to making those wishes come true. He immediately added 2 wild wishes of his own: skydive and kiss the most beautiful girl in the world. He even gave the list a proper name: the bucket list. Cole invited Carter to join him in checking off every wish in the time they had left. Carter refused without hesitation at first. He had a family he couldn't leave, and a fear of the unknown. In his view, 2 terminally ill patients going on an adventure would only hasten their end, but Cole thought he was all talk and no action. Now the chance was right in front of him. As long as he took action, it was never too late. He had given most of his life to his family. Now it was time to live for himself. Those few words cut straight to the truth he had buried for decades. And so, when Carter's wife came to visit, fully planning to transfer him to another hospital and try various treatments, Carter made the most unconventional decision of his life. He told his wife he was going on a trip with Cole. His wife was baffled, even accusing him of abandoning the family. How could he stop fighting his illness and run off with a stranger? But Carter stood his ground. His whole life, he had been a husband, a father, a grandfather, a hard-working mechanic, carrying countless responsibilities and roles. But on the final stretch of his life, he just wanted to shed all those labels and be himself. Just once, the first stop of their journey was a crazy skydive. From 10,000 meters up, Carter, who had always been afraid of heights, was pushed out of the plane by his instructor, screaming all the way. Fear and weightlessness hit him at once, but when he finally opened his eyes, the endless blue sky stretched around him, with the earth spreading out below like a magnificent painting. In that instant, all the fear dissolved, replaced by a freedom he had never felt before. Cole, on the other hand, was thrilled the whole time, reveling in the pure exhilaration of free fall.
We're in the red zone. Pull the cord.
I got a feeling I'm falling in love.
Pull the damn cord!
I was in love once.
Next, they headed to a racetrack. Cole rented out the entire track, so Carter could sit behind the wheel of his dream car, a Ford Mustang. The roar of the engine instantly rekindled a passion that had been dormant for decades. They raced each other on the track, their cars colliding with a screech, but they laughed with sheer abandon. The moment they grabbed the steering wheels, they felt like they had been transported back to their spirited youth. Pain, aging, and death were all left far behind. In the days that followed, their footprints covered the corners of the world. At a top-tier restaurant in France, amid candlelight and fine cuisine, Cole, who rarely showed vulnerability, spoke for the first time about his daughter, Emily. She had fallen in love with a man Cole disapproved of. Even though he had intervened to get her out of an abusive relationship, the father and daughter had completely fallen out, cutting off all contact for years. Carter said nothing, but quietly added a line to the bucket list: reconcile with his daughter. But this kind gesture infuriated Cole. It was the soft spot he had hidden for too long. Just then, Carter suddenly got up and went to the bathroom. Cole didn't know what was wrong, so he followed him to make sure he wasn't angry, only to notice blood seeping through Carter's chest. The tube in Carter's chest had come loose. Though it wasn't serious, the sudden incident was like a bucket of cold water, jolting them both back to reality. The joy was real, but so was the fact that they had very little time left. Meanwhile, Cole received a call from Carter's wife, demanding that he give Carter back. Hearing her tearful plea, Cole felt as though he had destroyed a family's last shred of happiness. He went to the bathroom to persuade Carter to go home, but Carter said this was a choice he had made after careful thought. He felt that something was wrong with his relationship with his wife. They still loved each other, but the feeling of not being able to cross the street without holding her hand was gone, until he figured out why. He wasn't ending this journey, and so, they kept moving forward. On the African savannah, they watched wildebeest migrate and lions roam, feeling the raw, untamed pulse of nature. Standing atop the pyramids of Egypt, gazing at the endless yellow sand, Cole thought they could witness a magnificent sight off the list, but Carter insisted on waiting until they'd seen the Himalayas, and then spoke of an ancient Egyptian belief: when a person dies and reaches the gates of heaven, the gods ask two questions. First, have you found joy in your life? And second, have you brought joy to others? To the first, Cole answered without hesitation. His whole life had been spent chasing wealth, and he had found immense joy in the process. But at the second question, Cole faltered. As memories stirred, he thought again of Emily, and finally told the full story of their estrangement. Back then, he couldn't stand seeing his daughter trapped in a toxic relationship, so he used his power to make the man who hurt her disappear from her life entirely. He thought he was protecting her, but all he got in return was her deep resentment. Cole insisted that even if he had a second chance, he would still do it again, but the pain in his voice betrayed the regret he carried. Their journey continued. In India, they strolled before the Taj Mahal in the evening breeze. In China, they walked along a stretch of the Great Wall, treading on ancient stones. The last stop of their journey was for the final wish on the list: to witness a magnificent sight. Standing at the foot of the Himalayas, they planned to push for the summit of Everest, but a sudden blizzard blocked their path. The weather forecast said the next good window for the summit would be next spring, but their lives were already in deep winter. They couldn't wait for another season. The regret of being so close yet unable to reach it sent their spirits plunging. The magnificent view lay right before them, yet life's deadline kept them firmly outside the door. Left with no choice, they diverted to Hong Kong. In a bar, Carter happened to meet a woman who had successfully climbed Everest. She softly described the view from the top. In her gentle narration, Carter could almost see himself standing on top of the world, taking in that breathtaking grandeur. But when she made an ambiguous invitation to him, Carter politely declined. This unexpected test only made him see his own heart more clearly. Having traveled half the world, Carter now just wanted to go home to his wife. So, the two of them began their journey back. Cole had planned to drop Carter off at his house, but the car stopped in front of Emily's home instead. It turned out Carter had secretly coordinated with Cole's assistant. He wanted Cole to finally cross that inner threshold and see his daughter after all these years. But this well-intentioned plan ignited Cole's fury. He went from flustered to outraged, accusing Carter of meddling in his affairs. He had played the strong one his whole life, and couldn't bear the pity in anyone's eyes.
I'm not everyone. This was supposed to be fun.
In his rage, Cole tore up the bucket list, the one that held all their shared memories. The two companions who had once seen the world together parted on bad terms. Dejected, Carter returned home, and once again felt the warmth of his family. At the cozy family dinner, he told stories of his adventures abroad, his face full of genuine contentment. Meanwhile, Cole returned to his vast, cold mansion. Its extravagant decor only made the silence more oppressive. Alone with a cold takeout meal, the loneliness and restlessness hit him like a wave. He realized that the fortress he'd built with money and socializing couldn't keep out the emptiness inside. That very night, Carter was slow dancing with his wife, trying to rekindle the romance of their youth. But the illness struck without warning. He slumped and fell straight to the floor.
Carter!
Cole, who was in a meeting, got the call, dropped everything immediately, and rushed to the hospital. Carter was bald and weak in bed, but still wore a smile in his eyes. They chatted in the hospital room, the earlier argument completely forgotten. Knowing his time was short, Carter told Cole that his favorite coffee, Kopi Luwak, was actually made from the droppings of a civet cat.
You're shitting me.
Cats beat me to it.
The absurd truth made them both burst out laughing, and laughing, they cried. Then Carter picked up a pen, and on the neatly taped together bucket list, crossed off laugh until you cry. Just before he was wheeled into surgery, Carter solemnly handed the list to Cole. The remaining wishes might have to be fulfilled by him alone. The bed rolled down the hallway toward the operating room, and stopped at the door that separated life from death. Cole opened the letter Carter had left for him. Carter was sorry for ruining their last meeting the night before, ending the journey that way had not been his intention. But even if he had a second chance, he would make the same choice.
There's no way I can repay you for all you've done for me. So rather than try, I'm just going to ask you to do something else for me. Find the joy in your life.
Then a little girl ran out of the room, looking at him shyly. Cole crouched down and gently kissed his granddaughter on the cheek. In that moment, "Kiss the most beautiful girl in the world" was quietly checked off the list. But Carter didn't survive the surgery. At his funeral, Cole, who had always hated such events, stood at the podium to deliver a eulogy. He spoke of his time with Carter. This man he'd only known for 3 months had saved his life.
It doesn't sound selfish of me, but the last months of his life were the best months of mine. He saved my life, and he knew it before I did.
Not long after, Cole also passed away peacefully. His assistant, following his will, took their ashes to the summit of the Himalayas. He placed both in coffee cans and left them on the snowy peak. Then he pulled out the list, and made the final mark next to witness a magnificent sight. The list was left there with them. There they would rest forever, side by side with the vast, magnificent landscape. Life is a river that never turns back. Do the things you want to do. Clear away the regrets in your heart. Open yourself up openly, and find the joy in life.